So, hi everyone. Hi Tarn. Hi TB. Thank you once again for joining me. Today we're a 2019 documentary directed by Petra Costa and connected again because it's annoying as hell. Sorry about that. January was the documentary month, so this is the last documentary for the rest of the year. And we have Tarn, we have TB here with me. So yeah, it's gonna be, but it's a discussion that I'm really curious how it will go. So I'm not sure exactly how we start. It's not a usual documentary. It's not like a usual movie.
No, so it's a political documentary.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't know that dictatorship and everything, the whole history of how do I say it? Since the times of the slaves was still going on that late into the 1900s of Brazil. That's something I did learn with this documentary. So I didn't know it was that far-reaching.
I mean, that's the purpose of a documentary, to teach you stuff, and it's good. I mean, I didn't know the history of Brazil or anything like that because I usually don't think about Brazil so often. And I think now I understand watching this documentary why before Bolsonaro, I didn't know which president was in Brazil and everything. And now because of Bolsonaro, everybody knows about the shit show happening in Brazil right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, I really enjoyed this documentary. It was 2 hours long. I feel like if it was short, it wouldn't put the points and everything. It wouldn't explain so well. And if it was too long, it would be boring. I still felt like 2 hours were a bit too long.
Yeah, it was very slow and meandering in the beginning. I thought. Yeah.
I mean, I love the documentary, and I have some bad points speaking about it, and good points as well. For all the discussions, one of the bad points is, I feel like
something like Trump in America.
This documentary was subjective. It wasn't speaking from the outside's perspective. It was it wasn't speaking objectively about stuff. It was speaking subjectively because the protagonist Petra is basically her mom and her dad fought for the revolution and tried to actually bring democracy into Brazil. So
it's available on Netflix,
tries
by
to
the
be
way.
impartial in the documentary, but for in some scenes you can notice that she's not impartial and actually goes like, I don't know if that would actually be happy for us or anything like that. And I dislike that because I feel like a documentary should be impartial from the beginning to the end and actually just give you the facts, and based on the facts you should actually put your thought into it and decide.
Don't know. I don't think anyone in Brazil can be impartial.
Yeah, I know.
So, as they explained, everything there is a family. Every that family controls that. That family controls that. So everyone. That also means that everyone's got a higher stake in it than in other countries. By the way, in which language did you guys watch it?
In
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Yeah, me too.
It's not Portuguese. It's sort of like because I had a discussion with somebody that was from Brazil, and they said something like, technically they speak in Portuguese, but it's sort of like
a dialect.
Dialect of Portuguese. Like they speak. People from Portugal, right? They say that Brazil is their language from the countryside or something like that, and their language from Europe is basically the higher language standards.
Yeah,
And
that's like British and American. That's
yes,
normal.
exactly.
Or like Dutch and Flemish.
Exactly.
Or like Romanian and Moldavian. I'm not
Yeah,
even joking.
Okay, and I mean, sort of like her family was in both sides. Like she said, her mom and her dad fought for the militia, against the militia, or no, fought with the militia for the revolution, for the democracy. And the other part of the family, her grandparents, owned the construction company that actually was in the big scandals. And part of
one
her
of
family,
the
one of the big scandals. And from what I've noticed and what I've heard from the actual documentary and pieced together, is she said like part of her family is incarcerated because of the big scandal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So technically, you can say she's impartial because she's from both sides, but at the same time, it felt too personal for me at moments.
Okay. Darn. You want to take over?
Oh, do I want to take over?
It's hard. So okay,
Yeah,
I can do it if you don't want.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So in a way, this documentary kind of hit home because I watched a similar documentary in regards to the last 30 years of our country,
Mhm.
and in the same sense that Brazil struggled with all their presidents and social political crisis, I think Romania is still in that situation as well. Pretty much the same situation as well. It's basically we've been under communism up until 30 years ago, but even though we are a democratic country, there's not a lot of democracy to be seen because the same two parties have been in leadership ever since the communism has been
Mhm.
let's say eradicated, or what do you want to say, or what do you want to call it?
Replaced.
Sure. But it's actually former Communist Party members that are part of the leadership of the two main parties that are governing in Romania. So this documentary kind of hit home because I see how I can understand how their people feel, because even though you get that illusion of being in a democracy, and you get under that illusion that you get to actually choose your government, your president who will lead the country. But a lot of people forget that in countries like this, it's not the president that has as much power as the actual government or the parliament. And if the majority of the parliament or the government, which are the institutions that usually lead a democratic country, are not in the majority of the same party as the president is, there's going to be a lot of conflict and a lot of conflict of interest going on. And even if the president would have ideas and would have initiative to go in the right direction, there's always going to be people that will vote against because they're the opposing party.
Mm-hmm.
So this I kind of felt like watching a documentary about Romania. I'm not even joking when I'm saying this.
I kind of felt that it was more that Brazil is an unsophisticated United States.
Okay.
So everything that happened there is kind of what happened in the United States the last few years too. But democracy, but the vote is still counted in the United States because the system there is stronger. That's all. But there's still big money behind everything. Politicians are bought. All of that happens in the USA too. Only not so heavily as in Brazil.
Not so heavily in what sense? Because
So not so overtly. So not that they're bought and the companies actually dictate what has to happen.
but I think it does happen in many
It-
countries.
Certain policies, they give money. We want you to push this
Lobbying.
policy. That's what happens
yeah.
in the USA.
Mhm.
There it was. Oh, we don't want that one. We want this to stop. What do? Let's pay everyone off. Up, she's out. We do it this way. Big money back in power.
Okay, but this is because we had, let's say, the backstage of it in this case in Brazil, but a lot of things happen like that in our country as well.
Mhm.
We don't know exactly the specifics because no one talks about it. No one had the background of who is paying who to do what. But a lot of that thing happens here, and a lot of those things happen in America as well, I believe.
Yeah, the thing the difference between Brazil and us, all those things happened in the 90s where you didn't have a proper recorder, right? And in Brazil it happened in 2010 when you had a proper recorder and you could record everything. Because if you had the same technology in the back days of Romania, you could have known the parties and who bought who and whatever. But the problem is they bought themselves a long time ago. Now they just don't speak about it, and they know for sure that it's mutual respect, mutual buyout, and everything like that. The only difference between, and also another difference between Brazil and us, they actually had a president that they loved and actually did something. Because I feel like Lula, right, he actually did something for Brazil.
Yeah, the Bolso Familia.
Yeah, he did something for Brazil, like a lot of things, a lot of good things for Brazil, and he dropped the poverty line. He helped a lot of people get jobs and everything. I mean, he helped a lot. Till the end of the documentary, I still feel uncertain about if he's a bad guy or not, because the documentary, as nobody knows, doesn't explain properly if he actually took the money from the big scandal or not.
No, it's about the apartment.
Yeah, but the apartment was basically like a clause for the big scandal, sort of like that. So he got imprisoned for an apartment, a PowerPoint basically presentation, and basically an apartment that he only saw once, right? He never went back to the apartment, and his name is not even on the contract of the property name, right? So,
Indeed.
I mean, to actually make the connection between him and the apartment and just say the apartment is his, it's a long goddamn line. And when you actually go to the documentary and see that a person from UK actually spoke about Moro, even though a lot of people in Brazil love the guy because he was basically a procureur. How do you say it? Okay. And the judge, basically, he said he's guilty. He basically drew the lines between him and the apartment, right? And basically he judged himself. And he didn't have an impartial judge to actually judge Lula.
Moro.
Yeah. So at the same time, I'm not saying Moro wasn't basically seeing the lines, but if you basically say to a person that you're guilty and you're gonna judge that person, he can say 1,000 things, different things, and actually show you evidence. Most of the cases, you're not gonna change your opinion because your opinion is already set in stone.
Yeah, but that's part of one of the main themes that documentary outlines, which is the political violence.
Yeah,
which
and also
is... Go ahead.
That nothing of the democracy still has too much of the military dictatorship in it. So military is very bad in running countries. I think we all know that. So they are good with logistics and everything, but everything else has to be run by business. people. So all the business people had the power. They still have the power. They're still ingrained in the justice system and everything. So most of the senators were appointed by businessmen, I think. That's part of the agreement, something like that.
Yeah.
So all that was way too ingrained. So that's all the whole problem there. Also, the outdated system of the investigator, the prosecutor, and the judge are all the same person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes, but that's part of like it seems to me that an old part of the fascism they used to have, and it's kind of as you said, old, and but it's still there, and it's gonna go back to that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
just
it
seem
went back to
well,
that actually.
no, it's still a democratic country in name.
In paper,
It's-
on paper, yeah.
Yeah, but now it's no military, all business. Like
Yeah.
Bolsonaro, we saw him last year. No, not was it last year? The fires in the Amazon,
Yeah.
or a year
yeah.
before that? Was
I
that
think
2019 or 2020?
It was
2020, I think.
Yeah.
yes.
He
Year.
didn't want to do anything so that the ground could be used by companies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just hated the guy. I mean, I cannot believe people are still. I mean, okay, are still voting for the guys that basically 20 years ago were in. 20
Shatterbrains saying 2019.
Yeah,
Okay.
End of 2019 and 2020 is Australia to
Summer.
Shatterbrain.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, but I still don't believe the same thing happened in Romania. Like the people that were the front line in the communist era, except for the great leader that basically got executed, right? Actually became the front lines of the new parliaments, and they said like, oh, we were communist yesterday, but now we changed. We are the good guys. We're democratic, and we're gonna hold elections, and you're gonna vote for president, right? The same thing happened in Brazil. Like after the military got down and they basically voted for the president, a couple of years they voted only people that were already in the system, were engraved with stealing, were engraved with all the bad things they did, and people still voted for them. A lot of people still voted for them, and I still don't understand. Not even in my country, and not even in Brazil, and not even in every country. I still don't understand if the person did something wrong, and everybody knows it because he's prosecuted for this. He's basically in jail. He came out of jail, got back into the politics, right? You know he's a bad guy. Why do you vote for him?
Yeah. And
I wish I could answer that.
well, okay, so that's the same thing as happened with all the MAGA heads in the USA. They got swindled by, well, people higher up, that's all. So they got presented with false facts from media too, but because you gotta remember, the entire media in Brazil is run by 9 families, that's all.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were all sending out the same message of, well, like the right-wing media did in the USA the past year and everything.
Yeah.
So, hey, all that was and distorted and everything. We've seen it happen up close in the USA. I keep going back to the USA because it's really quite the same.
Yeah, I think in the USA you have the Fox News that are basically just spewing shit about.
Yeah, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax. Yeah.
Yeah, that is basically pro-Trump and just saying pro-Trump things every time they can.
Yeah, pretty much. But not just that, it's also a distortion of the facts. It's with how is it called in dishonest players, let's call it that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
so people who present fact, but in the way that it fits them.
Yeah,
Of
yeah, yeah,
course. But at the
It-
same time, you have to think about there's always gonna be that in any aspect of life. Imagine history. Like every history book is written. Like your
Right.
country will write the history book in
The-
such a
every
way that
history
it
book,
favors you, your country,
the winners. It's written by the winners every time.
or that. But like
Yeah.
in general, it's you put out the things you want to look good for. But we're digressing. I think we went too much into the America part, which it's good for comparison,
Well,
but
it's for analogy,
yes, of course,
that's all.
of course.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Bolsonaro, you can bad actor. That's it. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. So Bolsonaro, you can see he's a bad actor because what was the thing he said in the documentary? I'm a hero.
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me? While he exalted one of the greatest torturer Brazil ever had and everything, but he's the hero. Yeah.
I mean, after all, okay, so I have sort of a idea of after all this time of good and prosperity, sort of like Brazil, the same thing happened with Lula and Dilma. I mean, they were good presidents, even if Brazil hated some of them, especially Dilma. I mean, in times of need, sort of, you need austerity. You need to make changes, even if you don't like it. You need to try this. It's not her fault. That is the bad time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually, when people don't know about the good times and all the things that were pushed to actually have the good times happen, they just vote for racism, for the bad times. And Bolsonaro is basically their their image of the bad things and racism and everything, because he said racist things and hateful things to a bunch of people, right? He said on camera that he hates that part of the country and he gonna basically make sure that they all go in prison or something like that, right? And people still voted it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go back to America, just an anecdote or something, people still voted for Trump, even though he said like let's kick out all the immigrants, because people thought, oh, my husband is a good immigrant, he's not gonna get kicked, And Trump came, the husband got kicked, right? People don't understand. They hate the person without knowing the person, and that's a big issue. And I think Brazil has the same thing right now.
Yeah, Brazil had, well, it all turns back to the business because the economy failing a bit, that was not held against the president. I forgot her name, sorry.
Dilma.
Right? So that was not held against her. All the other things that were happening, that was not held against her. What was held, why she had to disappear, was Operation Car Wash. All those big companies that were all of a sudden exposed, and those big businessmen were being locked up. That was why she had to go. That was her downfall. She wanted to do something good, but it had too much of a backlash.
Yeah.
If the businessmen were a bit weaker in Brazil, just a bit, she wouldn't have had that. She would have been exalted as a hero for doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And like the documentary said, she basically got impeached only just to pull attention from other things, from other people that are impeached as well, and basically going under. So basically, people wouldn't look for other scapegoats like this. They would just look at Dilma and say like, this is the biggest scapegoat. That's why I'm failing in life. That's why I'm sad in life and everything like that. And they succeeded with that. They succeeded in front of everything, like in front of the big world stage. They succeeded with that. And
actually, in front of the big world stage, Do
Yeah.
you remember seeing a lot of that on the TV?
No. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't remember seeing. I mean, I only saw a clip with the President Lula, right? When Obama said to Lula, "This is the most popular president in the world," right? I remember that clip. I remember seeing that clip on the internet, right? I never remember seeing other clips with Lula, his presidency, with Dilma, or her presidency. I didn't see anything of that. I didn't see anything about her being impeached, not even in the news.
Yeah. So the world wasn't really watching.
At the same time, it was watching, but maybe only the important things. I don't know. And
No, mainly because most of the world news is done by American companies,
yeah,
and the whole mess of Brazil is kind of the fault of the USA, because they supported the military coup in the 60s or whatever, and it was normally only supposed to last 1 year, but lasted 23 years.
20 or 21 or something like that. Or
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
so of course now they are embarrassed. They don't want that to explode too
known,
much
yeah.
and everything. Yeah. So I believe
I
that
mean,
was
on one side you had communists, on the other side you have the army. I mean, he didn't have a good choice, and America hated the communism, so let's go with the army. And another point about this, I still feel about every politician shouldn't have the immunity, because you can see in
Thank you
the
so much,
actual
Ashley, for being
documentary,
here. Hope you have a
people were
lovely
running
day,
for the immunity.
and,
They wanted to be
I'll see you
chancellor. They
next time
wanted to
on-
be a minister in the ministry,
Bye.
right? So they would have immunity and they wouldn't be prosecuted and they wouldn't go to jail, right? And I'm of the idea that every person, right, especially every politician, they shouldn't have immunity. Especially if you're the main target. If you're the second target, maybe. If you just tell about the others, but if you're the first target, you shouldn't have immunity, because if you have immunity, the people are just like going into a place, they have immunity, they're just gonna steal as much as they can, because guess what? They have immunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after like 3-4 years, who cares? Who gonna remember after 3-4 years? I mean, some of them remember, and they basically remember after 10 or 12 years, and they're basically prosecuted. But after 10-12 years,
The damage is done.
Yes, it's a little bit too late. I mean, that money could have been sent to make jobs. They could have sent to other stuff, right? You just basically he robbed. He lived with 10-12 years without anything. Like, if you had the chance to steal as much money as you want, and you would know that in 10-12 years you'd go to prison, most of the people would go like, you know what, I'm gonna steal. Because imagine like a life of luxury for 10 years, that you're gonna do everything you want, and after that you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm in prison for how many years? 5, 6. And after 5, 6, you're gonna go back to your luxury life if they don't. Yeah.
And even more so is that people like that don't go to the normal jail. Let's say they won't be placed with all the other people. They're gonna have preferential treatment.
Exactly.
Because of all the money they already have.
Exactly. And because they kept their mouth shut, you keep your mouth shut, the big boys take care of you, they're just gonna make sure you're in the good prison and everything. And I mean, I would understand on the other side, if you don't have immunity, right? As soon as you make not even one mistake, one dislike between the parliament and everything, they can actually impeach you and you're gonna lose your job. So you need immunity against other people from the parliament, right? Because you could have seen that in Dilma's case, she did something that wasn't popular, right? Austerity is never popular, but we need austerity in some crisis, right? She did that. on the actual thing, because she made sure that all the PMDB parted was not in her ministers and everything. They just basically fought against her and impeached her, because you fight against us, we're gonna fight back. And you can see on the actual documentary, the big guy in the Senate or the Parliament said, like, if you're gonna pass this, we're gonna impeach you. Imagine a world where it's basically in the big high stakes, you know, the guy from the head of the Senate, right, it's basically saying to the president that I have the power to put you in prison if you don't listen to me. I mean, that's crazy from the beginning.
Yeah, indeed. That's what's called the minority government.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why do we have this, but it shouldn't happen. I mean, imagine having that power, right? I mean, on the big stage, in front of everybody, in front of all the cameras, you're gonna say like, okay, I don't care if you don't listen to me, you're gonna be impeached, and in like 2-3 days, you're not gonna be president.
And yeah, Bolsonaro was actually Bolsonaro after that was elected because he had no opponent, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And with Lula put away, he had no opponent. That's the only way he got elected.
Yep.
Not a big opponent, because Lula was the one that was like.
Yeah, of course. If even Lula had the chance to promote someone else to run for president, like he did with Dilma, they would probably have won. But
yeah, well, I mean, we don't know for sure, but yeah, I can see the case of that person winning. Also, I didn't like the thing with Lula. I understand why he did it. Like, he tried to become a president so he wouldn't go to prison. I feel like that's a desperate move. I understand why he did it, but I feel like that's a desperate move in my book. And you could have seen like people at all the all the rooms. They were making sure that the verdict in the Lula case would go as fast as possible. So they knew from the beginning that the verdict was imprison Lula. So he wouldn't have a chance to win the presidency and have immunity against the imprisoned. Because the case in the higher court, right? He got the results after 1 day, not even 1 day, less than 1 day. And usually people in the high court, you need more things to debate, you know? You need 2-3 days. You have cases that you got an answer after 1 week, right? And you have a case of a guy that was basically a former president, right? And wants to go for presidency again. And you debate the thing and it's over in not even 1 day.
I mean, that's how the big guys work, right?
Yeah, I mean, they do a good job. I'm not gonna complain about that.
yeah, well, because their minds were made up before the actual plea, I think. So Moro gave him 9.5. He went to fight it in a higher court. And higher court, oh, you dare to speak up? Let's give you 12 years instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Pretty much. And then he wasn't even allowed to
appeal.
To be free until his arraignment. So.
Oh yeah.
So not even that was allowed. It was pretty heavy-handed and obvious, I think. Yeah. But yeah, you can. The rest of the world can hardly come in between sovereignty as long as it's not a military coup. Most other countries don't want to interfere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for most countries, the last few years have been a shit show. So, economic and environmental, all of that has
has gotten a strain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why not many countries want to help other countries, because if you give the man a power, right? If you help one side of the battle and that side wins, you don't know how they're gonna behave when they're in power. You've seen a lot of people just getting to power, having a lot of ideas, and then finding after years and years that they had bribes all over. They did a lot of money laundering and everything like that. And I think you have a replica from video games or movies. I mean, as a hero, would you die young or live long enough to actually see yourself as the bad guy? So
Yeah.
I think this is the same thing with the politicians. They start off as good people with good intentions, but as time progresses, you're fighting against the wind.
Yeah, you have to. Well, that's the ugly thing about compromise, right? Especially in a country so corrupt as Brazil. If you have to compromise, you have to take a bit of the corruption in, which means you're not holding to your standards anymore. And that's what Lula did even to get elected. So he compromised before that, and not only going for the workers, but for the businessmen too, just to get elected.
I can't agree with the part that that's what happens in Brazil, especially. For example, the first example that comes into my mind is Margaret Thatcher, that actually had to give up her role because of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Prime Minister of UK.
Oh no, I didn't mean about that. I meant it was on what Cappy said, Capmaster.
Could be.
You start out clean and with good intentions, and you become a bad guy in a sense. That was what
Okay.
happened to Lula.
Yes.
So he ran 3 times for president before that,
Before
just
being
on
elected.
his own ideas for the workers.
Yeah.
When he had to compromise and also go for the big businessmen to get elected.
Exactly.
That's what happened. That's what I meant.
And I feel like if Dilma
That's how you
didn't,
call her in
if
the
Dilma
UK?
compromised, she would still be a president right now. She didn't want to compromise, and she tried to fight against them, and they were too powerful for her.
Yeah, it was
It's-
also because the PMDB had gone with Bolsonaro, and then the whole thing about not accepting the results of the vote and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
but I think for Dilma, it was even more. It was even harder to compromise, considering the fact that she was imprisoned for, I think, 22 years, if I'm not mistaken, for standing against a bad,
The-
corrupt system regime.
Yeah.
So I think for her, it was not an option, even if it would have maybe secured her presidency even further. I think maybe for Lula, seeing that he tried and tried again, and seeing that he was basically in the working party union in the first place, and saw he had the opportunity as well to see and what the struggles were, and said, okay, this is the only way I can do it, I'll do it. But he wasn't imprisoned for 22 years before doing that. So said, okay, I'm gonna compromise this. I know what I'm doing. He was really popular. He did a lot of things, like again, you guys mentioned Bolsa Familia, which is the best and well-known thing about his presidency. But I think for him, that compromise, even though it wasn't to his standards either, I think it was easier than for Dilma. Only from the imprisonment.
Yeah,
Only,
especially
especially from that, actually.
once the alliance was broken.
Yeah.
for sure. What this documentary showed is that, well, the ugly truth that no one wants to recognize, that capitalism and government doesn't go together well.
Oh.
I feel like not even
Yeah,
democracy goes well with something because
No, so capitalism is good for normal people, not for government. That's what I mean. You know,
Yes,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
government is formed by capitalist people.
governments going bankrupt and things like that. It's not something that should be able to happen, but it does. It's also why Dilma why they had that way into impeach Dilma, because she had her can't come her administration had shuffled with the numbers so that it would be in a later fiscal year
Mhm.
a bit to have better numbers for the budget, for the interest, everything. So capitalism in government doesn't really
Doesn't
work.
work. Yeah.
That's
No.
just something I've always found. I'm not a communist, by the way.
Oh no, you're fine. I mean, it's not. We're just discussing what we see and what we've been presented with more than anything. So
I mean,
um,
the only way of government that is the best in theory is
okay.
basically the authoritarian government.
Autoritist, what?
Authoritarian government. Just one person that basically rules everything.
You
If that
mean
person,
totalitarian, like North Korea?
Nah,
totalitarian.
I don't
Okay,
think
let me
that's
explain.
Okay.
If that
I'm
person,
listening.
if that person is good and knows what he's doing for the people, he will do changes and help everybody.
Give me
Right?
one example of that happening throughout history. Okay.
You don't have an example. You don't have an example, right? You don't have an example of that because people just get drunk of power, and just do stupid
Exactly
shit.
that.
But basically, if in theory that's the best case scenario. In theory, nobody did that, but that's the best case scenario. And democracy, you could see in the last years that it's not so good. Examples: Brexit, Trump. I mean, technically, we did democracy when voting those stuff, right? It was democracy, and it wasn't as good as possible, and you can see the repercussions now. So that's why I'm saying, like, the totalitarian.
I can't agree with that.
That's fair.
Sorry. No, so totalitarianism. It's good if okay. So let's say you have a good person with the best intentions, being the totalitarian. Okay, who's gonna follow him up when he dies? His son. He grows
Yeah.
up in having all the power.
Yeah, okay.
And usually that waters down, and they forget about the people and start enriching themselves again.
Yeah.
And that's how it flows. Now, that also takes away any power of the people to actually make a change in that.
Not really, because if the best example is he will listen to the people. I mean, even if he's the authoritarian, he would listen to the people in some cases and try to.
Yeah, but I mean, later on, after that good person is gone and his shitty grandson is in power.
Yeah. That's where his changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's where totalitarianism fails. In democracy, you have a little bit of fish lab power to change a little bit things if the government isn't responding to what the people need.
Yes, but for actually that thing happen, you need to actually call a lot of people on the streets and protest against that.
Yeah.
And
or have more than two parties.
Yes, and have more than two parties, but across, even in history, right? I mean, a lot of countries have been democratic for a long time, and they still vote for bad stuff. Like Brexit, like in the beginning, they voted for good stuff, vote for the people, right? But right now, they forgot about why democracy is there in the first place. is to give a right for the people to vote for themselves and vote for the better good, right? But if people don't know what the better good is,
Mm. The main problem is what I see here. That's one what you just stated that they don't know, but the main problem is like, okay, think of it this way. Think of it this way. So think of Romania, okay? Yeah, we have two big parties right now, which are the Social Democratic and the National Liberal. Okay?
yeah,
And the only options we get to have is people put by them. And you end up choosing the lesser evil, which is will never, ever, ever in a million years be a good option.
yeah, but it's better than the bigger evil.
Yeah, okay. But and that totalitarian regime, yeah, we already discussed the flaw of that. I think okay, so in terms of politics, I think the best way of government has not yet been discovered.
Yeah, but I mean, for how long? I mean, democracy was when the Roman Empire was existed. When Roman Empire
No, no, no,
existed,
no, no,
right?
no, no.
I mean,
Democracy has only been a full form of government has only been a thing for 240 years.
240 years.
Yeah. The USA is the oldest democracy.
Okay, so okay, I think I'm mislabeling stuff. I was thinking about Greece and using like the basic of democracy or something like that. Sorry, my bad.
No, no.
Yeah, Greece and Rome, they had a senate, but the senators weren't chosen by the people.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
No worries.
We
Good
learn.
to find out. Yeah,
This,
we learn.
this is learning by talking. I love it.
Exactly. I mean, 240 years ago, USA, right? And right now we encounter the problem of democracy, voting for the bad stuff. What happens when you vote for the bad stuff? How long will it take for the new form of government to appear that will be better than democracy? Because democracy took, I don't know, at least 1800 years from the birth of Jesus Christ. No. Yeah, something like that. And before that, we had other things of government and everything like that. Like, how long is it gonna take until we find a better suitable thing for democracy? That's my question. Is it do we have a better form of politics than democracy?
Well, it's okay. So I don't think democracy is exactly the problem. I think it's politics itself. Because politics was there without democracy. That politics were also in ancient Rome and everything.
Yes.
That's what the senators were. Politics. That's. I think that's where the problem is. People get. Politicians get too far removed from the people to know what's really needed. I think that's what the problem is. On the other hand, you also can't have the politicians close to the people all the time, while still having to do all the things that are needed to govern the country.
Exactly. So it
So
needs
it's
to be
a case of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
So what's the answer here? I mean,
There is no answer. That's what I said. Like the ideal form of
At the moment, there is no
government.
answer. Yeah.
Like,
Until humankind comes together. Yeah, let me go a bit utopian here.
utopian, yes.
Comes together and works for the same goals, it won't ever be better. Not really, at least.
yeah. I don't know. Okay, and another thing I want to discuss about was the speech at the end made by Lula,
Mm-hmm.
that he is in prison, but he gonna live in their hearts and everything like that. You don't see that kind of speech so often to politicians. You don't see that kind of speech said to the people. Like that.
Indeed.
That was one of the times that I heard that one kind of those speeches, and especially by a president and a higher stake person, right?
Mandela.
Yeah, Mandela. I think
Mhm.
Mandela. Wait, Mandela did also.
What? You
I'm
found?
not- I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I
So-
think he's
You-
looking for the information. It's fine.
Yeah.
Looking at Wikipedia.
In Wikipedia, yeah. I think Mandela did something bad also. But yeah,
You
it doesn't
think?
matter. Yeah, I think. I cannot remember properly, so I don't want to say something judgmental or something like that. But
Oh,
he was.
no. He was first imprisoned, then exiled. Then when he came back, he was imprisoned again.
Okay.
It wasn't that he did something bad to the people. He was fighting for the people, but the government wouldn't let him.
No. Yeah, I understand. But between like, let's say every like high stakes person that I know, they didn't do something bad in the public, but behind closed doors, they did something bad. Like Micah Teresa, they didn't believe in medical surgery and everything like that, and basically pushed people to not do surgeries and take pills. But when she was close to dying, she used medicine and she got surgery and everything like that. So I'm just saying, like, I think I remember it was something bad about Mandela also, but I don't want to pinpoint. But yeah, Mandela also had a great speech, and I think Martin Luther King had a great speech.
Mhm.
And, I mean, all the higher stakes people, and you can see that those people actually wanted something better, right? I mean, in Lula's case, I feel too bad that I feel like in the big scandal, he knew that bribe was being taken, right? Because you cannot be president without knowing that it's the biggest deal in Brazil, bribe is not taken. So I think he knew about the bribe, but he closed his eyes, not taking any money, or maybe taking just a little bit, so he could do much better to the people. Because on the actual from the documentary, on the actual contract, they say like 1, 2, or 3% of the contract is gonna be political bribe. It actually says on the contract.
Yeah. That's
So in that case, I feel like if you know about this,
yeah, that's
can you hear me?
paperwork that's was so ingrained with military dictatorship that it never went away. So in all contexts, it was ingrained. But can you imagine Lula inspecting every contract while you have an administration? So I think a lot of it slipped by him to the administration.
I understand this, but at the same time, I would understand like smaller contracts pass by, but such a big important contract?
Do you think the
I'm
queen
not saying-
reads everything she signs?
No, but at the same time, she would delegate some trustful people that would read those and explain those stuff and would know about those.
Yeah,
I'm
and half of his administration was I forgot the exact sequence of the other
PMDCP.
party. So
Yeah, PMDCP.
Baby shark do 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 baby shark do 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 baby shark.
peanut butter dildos with
Thanks for the
meat
24 bits.
butter.
That's a good one, Tarn. That's a good one. I'm gonna steal it. Well, yeah, I actually loved it. I love the documentary. I feel bad for this month of documentaries finishing we should do this more often because
We can. I mean, again, guys, this is like we can watch things and we can discuss, not necessarily on stream, but
yeah.
I try to keep these discussions as far away from one another so that we have the time to do it, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
to limit to this.
Yeah, fair enough.
And yeah, I think one last thing, I mean, not one last thing, another thing that I wanted to somewhat pinpoint. So we had 3 presidents that were mainly focused on in the documentary. And
Mhm.
there are 3 scenes in the movie that kind of are similar to the presidency and the times in the presidency. So in the beginning, I don't know if you remembered, in their, I don't know what's the house called, but it's like their White House.
Yeah,
I forgot the
palace.
name of it.
The palace.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the first scene in the palace is very bright.
Yeah.
Like it's very nice, bright, and everything. And the first part of the documentary is focused on Lula, which was very touchy, friendly, very connected to the public, like Tarn said. He considered everyone, like considering the last speech, and that he's gonna be in the minds of everyone. He's gonna be like, basically he had a political current named Lulism after him.
Yeah.
In the middle, there's another scene of the palace, and it's not that bright anymore. It's beginning to dim. And not saying that Dilma did a bad job, it's just that it's kind of a pavement of the ongoing downfall that's going to happen. I think it was a nice touch from Petra's directing. I think it was her that chose these images to kind of outline what it was going towards. And then in the last palace scene, which was the time that Bolsonaro took presidency, the palace was very dark. Like the light was very, very dark, and things basically went to shit.
Yeah.
That's what I understood from the 3 scenes. There, 3 scenes.
And
that
that's
they
why I
made.
said in the beginning that she was
Moistra,
subjective
thank you for
and
the
not
follow.
objective to the actual documentary.
But that was something I noticed somehow. Like it was I wouldn't say a fun fact, but it was just something that I noticed. And
The last one was also dark because curtains were drawn and everything, because the interim president, that white wipe there, didn't was afraid to stay in the palace because he heard ghosts and
ghosts
everything.
and everything. Yeah.
The ghost of his conscience that's piping up
Yeah.
really quiet.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
We
That
could
why it was dark, I think.
we could probably talk about politics for hours,
Yeah, for sure.
but
I hate politics.
I
That's
think
the problem watching with documentaries, right?
I know.
Real things, and we go on.
It's okay. I think I don't know if unless you want to go on, but I think we've outlined most of the important things that happened and that
we-
were described.
Yeah, we've outlined that the world is shit, indeed.
Mm,
Indeed it is, Tarn. Indeed it is.
you can say that. Again, for me, as an ending thing that I'd like to say is that I will end as in a circular way. I feel that this documentary, as I said, feels like it hits close to home, because I feel the same crisis is still happening here. We are confused. We are being manipulated in such a way that we don't even realize how much we are manipulated. We want to believe that we make the good choice, but sometimes that choice is not even ours to make because the choice was already made when they put the two people at the end of the voting sessions. But I do believe in one way of living, and that's to always try to be kind. So that's beyond politics and that's beyond religion. It's
I
part
agree.
of what you
And-
choose to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
indeed.
I agree
That's
with
where
you, brother.
fail to. Okay.
I think that's all for me. The only sad part is Lula losing his wife
Yeah.
because she had too much stress because of the actual case. I mean, she had stress because she was also being judged.
Yeah, she was also indicted.
Yes, for what? She wasn't political. Like, come on. I mean, those people actually wanted her, and because of that, or because something like that, she died, and I just feel bad for this. That's my ending point. Also, like Steph said, that this documentary hit home, and I feel like every scene was another scene from Romania, but with a different language, a different narrator. So you have bad days and you have good days. Okay, that's all from my side.
Alright.
Yeah, this I can't say this hit home exactly. We have a small country that's divided in two by language, by Dutch and French, and on both sides there are I think about at least 8 big parties. So we have about 16 parties that do that, so it doesn't really hit home. You can't twirl your ass without hitting a political party here, so it doesn't really hit home, but I can see how bad that it is and everything, and how people are influenced by all that. Especially again by seeing it mostly from the last year in the USA too, and everything. Because I follow American politics because I mostly find it funny most of the time, except when the bad shit happens. But you take it with it. Yeah. So it is a damn shame, but hey, we're just people.
We're just people. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much again. I'm really thankful to have you here and on every discussion. I wouldn't be watching as many movies. Well, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be watching as many movies in so many diverse areas, and I think it's gonna be nice to have to go throughout the year through all those genres. I'm looking forward to discovering new things that I might enjoy. I have a lot of the genres that I almost never watch, so that's gonna be a super interesting thing to me. So yeah, thanks once again for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You guys are awesome, and
You too.
You too.
we'll have to start. I will have to post the next genre, and we need suggestions. And I think Alexei is gonna join us starting March only because he still has a lot of school to go through, and he said he'll have to take a break. So
Okay.
that's
just-
understandable. Yeah.
Normally, before I started streaming, I watched a lot of different kinds of movies and everything. I even had a Facebook group that was dedicated to movies. So it is not that much of a change, but it is fun to take the time for it and do it again and actually
Exactly.
discuss it. So thank you for that, Steph.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And if I ever stop doing this on my stream and you want to go on, I'll sure as hell try to join.
Okie doke.
But I don't plan to stop. I just made the plan for the year.
You might be going longer than me, remember?
We'll see. I hope not. I hope
hope.
not.
Okay. Anyways.
Cool. I'm probably gonna play a few more COD games. So thank you guys. Thank you once again.
Okay. See ya. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Catch you next time.